Okay. Greetings, everyone. This is Todd Byer there on the State Building Code Council. This is our state, our legislative committee meeting for Friday, January 22nd, 2021. We'll start with, I guess, roll call, please, to establish quorum.
Richard told me I'll do the talking today, so I'll start with the attendance. So excuse me for the names if I say something wrong, but I'm working on it. I'm really bad with names. Okay, I'm trying. And Todd, I will skip your last name.
Yes.
I'm practicing. Here. I'm practicing as we speak. So Todd.
Here.
Doug Ort.
Here.
Diane. Okay.
You're muted, Diane.
There we go. I'm here.
Okay. Andrew?
I'm here.
This is the other name I was struggling, but Krista helped me on that. Chell?
You nailed it.
Did I? Okay. But he's not here to hear, unfortunately. Phil?
Present.
Okay, so we have a quorum. We can start.
Great, thank you. Just out of curiosity, was this the meeting that Chell said he was going to have weekly conflicts with? Does anyone else remember that? That's okay.
I'm sorry, Todd. I'm actually muting. I'm trying to follow the rules. Yes, but he was hoping he could work his schedule around it.
Occasionally. Okay. Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to be recognized on this meeting?
Good morning. This is Terry Beals, Director of Regulatory Affairs for Sound Transit. And just like to say, hey, happy retirement, Richard. Gonna miss you. I'm right behind you.
Thank you, Terry.
I'm sorry. I guess I'm supposed to respond. That's what my brake mechanic said.
Yeah.
This is Dan Wildenhouse with Better Built Northwest, just listening in, interested third party.
Likewise, this is Kevin Doyle with Northwest Natural, just listening in.
Ken Brulette, Seattle Fire Department.
Barb McMullen from the State Fire Marshal's Office.
And Sue Kaufman with the City of Tacoma, just listening in.
Ravi Mahajan with the Clark County Building Division, just listening in.
Okay. Hearing none other, thank you. Stoyan, I see Chell joined, I believe.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. Okay, moving on, agenda item 2, review and approve the agenda. Can we hear a motion to approve, please?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Moving and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? So approved. Agenda item 3, review and approve the January 15th, last week's minutes. Can we hear a motion for that approval, please?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Any proposed edits or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. There's only a couple ayes there. Any opposed, nay? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. It approved. And then the legislative update, item number 4. Stoyan, please.
Okay, so I already mentioned that, sorry, but I will stop the video because I'm having some, I guess, connection difficulties, and in order to let you hear me better, I'll stop the video. But if somebody wants to see my face, let me know and I'll turn it on again. So Krista, Okay, yes. So this is, I modified a little bit the log just to give you a better option to understand and see what we are doing and follow the bills even if you are not on the meeting. So what I did, I will keep all bills and you see at the top the date. So these were the bills that we talked about on the 15th meeting. And what I will be doing, if you go on the committee action column, so I will try to update these cells and let you know where is the bill right now. So if you guys wanna check it, it's a good option because there is a link so you can access the updated website. Okay, and for some bills I don't have the links yet because when I was working on the form, there was something wrong with the links, but I will keep updating the form until I get everything in order. Okay. So, Krista, can you go to page 2?
Hey, Stoyan, real quick, this is Todd. So may I propose, or for anyone to comment, maybe the link just takes us directly to the bill page rather than the actual bill text? It's obviously easy to type it in, but
on the left side, this link will take you to the bill text. And
yeah.
on the right side, this link will take you to the bill page.
I see. Okay, thank you.
And I added 2 new columns where you can see if there is a impact on the council and impact on the stakeholders. I think I started on the wrong foot on the first meeting on 15 because I didn't realize that there may be not any fiscal impact on the council, but at the same time, there may be some financial implications on the stakeholders. So I will try to keep these columns updated in order to give you some idea if it concerns the council as an entity or it concerns the stakeholders. So, Krista, on the second page. Okay, so on the third, sorry. Okay, this is for today's meeting, and these are the new bills, and we have some really interesting bills. So the first one is HB 1184. It's related to on-site non-potable water systems. And what it does, it doesn't have any mandates directly to the council, but it requires the Department of Health to consult and coordinate with the council when developing rules related, as I mentioned, the on-site non-potable water systems. And so at this time, the bill doesn't really specify how the Department of Health will be coordinating with the council. But again, as written, we can say that the mandates in this bill have potential big impact on the council. And I'm talking about the normal course of business and will have implications on the stakeholders. What I want to point out to is the effective date. So the effective date for this bill, for this bill is July 1st, 2022. So it's first too close, it's unrealistic date, and second, it's out of sync with our regular rulemaking cycle. And the second big issue is the cross connection, the contamination, cross contamination. This has been an issue for years, and it's the bill doesn't specify how it will be taken care of. But there will be, because of that, there will be implications on the stakeholders. For the impact on the council, with Richard's help, we calculated the fiscal impact to, I think, $69,000 because of the effective date. The bill is mandating it will require maybe new TAC it will require additional council meetings. So it was a guesstimate, but we calculated it to $69,000. And again, the impact on the stakeholders will be huge, financial and everything else related to the implementation.
I have two questions about this. This is Charlie Anderson. One is, I think the plumbing code has information on non-potable water systems already in it. And I guess what in addition to that would we do other than adopting a plumbing code, which is our normal course of business? And then this seems very unspecific in when the Department of Health, is the Department of Health also required to create rules that are completed by this July 1, 2022, or in what way would we expect? I guess it just seems really unknown as to how we would come up with a cost if we don't know really that they are going to reach out to us in the first place. And second, in what way they'll reach out and what kind of input they might need.
At this time, we don't have this information. The bill doesn't specify it, and we don't know how the coordination will go. We don't know if they will develop everything and just share with us to include it in the building code, in the plumbing code. Although you're right, the building code contains the technical requirements for non-potable water, but the bill, how it's written, doesn't really specify anything at this moment. It requires the Department of Health to develop the rules and adopt the rules, but the coordination part is still unclear. So this is why I said about the fiscal impact that we guessed. In any case, it will require additional meetings, but it depends how fast and how much work the Department of Health will be able to do. So we will monitor the bill. We're assuming there will be changes to the bill, but at this moment, this is the information we know.
Okay, thanks.
Can I go to the next one?
Yes, please.
So the next one is the same. It's just in the Senate, so we will monitor both of the bills. HB 1280, nothing to worry about. I intentionally kept it here, even though this is it seems misassigned, but we will be monitoring the bill. It's related to greenhouse gas emissions reduction in the public facilities. But just in case, we'll monitor the bill for future to avoid surprises. So nothing to worry at this time. The next one is SB 5280, and these are administrative procedures, but these are very important procedures, and this is an important bill. Based on the text, you know how the bill is written, it really narrows the rulemaking authority for state agencies, which will include the Building Code Council. So how it works currently is the code amendments are valid for years. You know, well, I don't need to explain that. You know better than me, but they are valid for years unless modified in the future by the council. What this bill does, it changes everything. So what the bill specifies is that where the agency is authorized to write the rule, which what the council does, the rule expires on June 1st in the next year following the adoption, unless the legislature postpones the expiration. So this is the catch. So the waiver, how it works with the council, this waiver would be required for all of the council rulemaking. There was I didn't know that, but Krista helped me to find this out. There was another bill last year, SB 1052, and the new one is the simplified version of it. Okay, so there was a similar bill also in 2017. The policy impact, it's a major. Fiscal impact, It's not much. It will require some additional meetings, but the fiscal impact is not major. The policy impact will be major because the building council may not be able to meet its obligations under 927. This is what I can say about this bill at this moment. And also it will require changes in other laws because again, it is absolutely different from what we are doing now, what the council is doing now. Should I continue or you have questions?
Oh, I think go ahead, Stoyan, unless anyone jumps in.
Okay. HB 1187, it was misassigned, and this time I don't see any issues with the council. It's not related to the court council business. So I have these bills, misassigned bills for information purposes only. The last one is 1321. How the bill is titled is Public Meeting Accessibility and Participation. It changes the title of the Open Public Meetings Act to Washington State Open Public Meetings Act. I'm still reviewing the bill because there are some cross references to local government and public agencies. So I'm still trying to understand what the intent of the bill is, but it doesn't have any impact on the building council because the bill amends a few sections and add some new sections, 3 new sections to the Open Public Meetings Act. And these amendments are pertaining to the accessibility and participation. For entities like the council, what it does is allows the council to do remote meetings, which we have been doing this for a long time. And there are some specific requirements for public participation, but based on what the council is doing, the business, we don't need to add anything. We're already going above and beyond. So I will update the information for this bill, but it's nothing that again will impact stakeholders or the building code council. And this is what we had for this week.
I've got a comment on HB 1103 up on the first page.
Mr. Kino, yeah, thank you.
The descriptor says that requires building materials used for government funded projects to be rated by the contractor for environmental and societal costs. And we say impact on stakeholders is none. I don't believe that to be the case. Based on current understanding of that bill, it could be a major impact on the contractor. So there is a stakeholder impact on that potential on that bill.
Doug, this is Todd. You beat me to it. That was going to be my exact proposal. Just make sure that's a medium or major for the stakeholders.
Yeah.
And then to add on to that is one I follow very closely. It technically is disclosure by, and the contractor is responsible for that, but it's really on the manufacturer
exactly.
of material. So I think and I'm seeing an overlap with some of the typical home builders and others. So
it's well, let me clarify that. So yes, I agree with you. But at the same time, what I was trying to outline with this table or form, whatever you call it, was, can we do something about it? And this bill is really out of the council hands, and we will monitor the bill. We will follow, what the ledge is doing and anything new in the bill. But at this time, there is nothing related to the state council, to the code council. Yes, you're right. It requires the building materials used for government-funded projects, and it may and it will have some impact, but it's not related to the state building code council.
Well, if our rule was, or our guiding principle was to only comment on those that we could do something about, then we probably wouldn't have a position on any of them. So again, I don't know that the criteria is whether or not we can affect a change to the bill or ultimately have anything to do with it. But in our analysis, I think the legislature needs to know that we see an impact to stakeholders on there. So whether they avail themselves of the information in a table like this or not, I don't know, but it should be there. And I would argue that impact based on current information is major, not medium.
Point very well taken, and I will do whatever you want me to do.
Okay.
Stoyan just beat me to the point. We will take that as committee direction.
And to reinforce, as a manufacturing representative, this has a major impact on the stakeholders.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I would add maybe a similar consideration. It's a little more external, but there are 3 major proposals or bills affecting the Growth Management Act, the GMA. And again, these won't show up necessarily in our codes, but they are major impacts, at least medium impacts, to the same players that we work with on the life safety and fire and energy codes. So, housing supply 1157, that was just reviewed this morning. Obviously the, climate change inclusion into the GMA proposal, I forget what bill that is. That's a major one. And then the third would be, it's slipping my mind right now.
Todd, I do have a question, which is, I guess, the intent of this document. Because, yeah, there's lots of bills that affect the built environment and our work peripherally. And, what are the guardrails that we use to put bills on this list or not put bills on this list? And I guess I don't fully understand those. And specifically talking about 1103, it has a major effect on some of the stakeholders for this group. But, we also have a seat on the council for accessibility. We have a city representative. We have lots of representatives that are not just the construction industry. And so if we expand the guardrails too much, we will end up with, every bill on this list. So I guess I'd love some clarification on what the guardrails are for putting anything on this list.
Well, I would just give my opinion, and then I think it's more important to hear from, staff. I mean, I like, Stoyan, I appreciate these 2 columns here, because there is the state building code centric, in terms of workload and actual burden on the council, but then also the impact of stakeholder. I think it can be pretty wide open, because as soon as we get into discussion on, building decarbonization or even, cap and trade, we're speaking a language that your tag is very focused on, as we switched over to, greenhouse gas emissions and so forth. And we're actually developing, code for that. And that's where I see the same players are coming to the table, the same stakeholders are coming to the table, making very similar arguments on some of those, even those comprehensive plan, the GMA, pieces there. Same arguments we're hearing on the energy, for the energy code.
If I can clarify what you see in the last column, when you see no, it's related, again, it's related to the state building code council business. So if it's yes or no, can the state building code council do something about it? And again, if you want me to expand a little bit, I can, whatever you want me to do, I can do the extra work, and can I add some additional bills?
Todd, this is Richard. Historian doesn't have the benefit of the history. What staff's criteria has been historically? Actually, let me back up. This is an internal building code council. Granted, it's posted, but this is an internal state building code council document. And this is the legislative committee, so we can do what you want. Historically, we only posted bills that had affected RCW 19.27 or 19.27A, or mention the building code council, or mention the codes. We run all the bills through those filters, and then this is what comes out. And that's why even some of the bills that are misassigned, it's because within the bill text itself, it had one of those not RCW references, but would have one of the word references or phrase references that we use to filter which bills we bring before you and which we don't. Having said that, this is your process.
I would be in favor of continuing on just what Richard described. Whether or not we can have an impact to it or should have an impact to it, it's not the criteria. I think if it touches 1927, 1927A, we should at least be aware of it, track it, and if and when legislature wants an opinion, we can prepare and present that opinion. There are a few times where we've been more proactive than that. I don't know that that's really our role on a normal basis. I would say it's probably it's not probably, in my opinion, it's not our role to be more proactive, but certainly bills that touch RCW 1927, 27A, I think we should be aware of them, in my opinion.
Chell, do you have any follow-up there?
Yeah, I guess just establishing within this group what the guardrails are for what goes on this list and what doesn't. And, I think the Growth Management Act will affect our stakeholders significantly, and many other bills will as well. So I guess I'm saying if we open ourselves up to much beyond the 1927 and 27A, we will be tracking lots more bills. And that's my only comment is, if we're putting certain bills that peripherally affect us on here, what other bills are we not putting on here that also equally peripherally affect us? That's all I'm saying.
No, it's a fair comment, and I'm willing to. Maybe it's just it's the overlap I see as one representative on the council. These strong overlaps between GMA and codes, but that doesn't mean we have to discuss them in this committee. So.
I guess the one thing I do see where is 5280, where if that doesn't allow us to meet another legislative requirement, it seems we should point that out to the legislature that, in fact, one legislative requirement could be in opposition to another one if passed.
I doubt very seriously if 5280 will have much of a shelf life, but I agree with your point.
Todd, this is Richard. May I speak?
Please.
Yeah, we brought this up with our DES bill meeting this morning, and they just laughed when we presented our concerns with this bill. So I'm echoing what Doug said. Is we have a responsibility to fill this chart out as we see. But one of the suggested amendments that we put in is to exempt 1927 and 1927A, and then we don't care.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, we don't need to talk about that anymore. I think that's.
So kind of in a similar vein, I forget the number that adds voting rights to the ex officio members. Have we communicated, or DES communicated the potential for negative impact on having a quorum within the council at large? And it seemed like that's an important fact to put out there.
Todd, may I respond?
Yes, please.
This is Stoyan's meeting, so now I'm just kind of an observer.
Well, I tried to open my mouth, but I couldn't.
I was too fast, huh? That is as you can imagine, a sensitive issue for the council to even weigh in on, because these are fellow council members. But to respond to you, Doug, specifically, is the 8 vote is actually a bylaw. It's not a WAC or a statute.
The difficulty with that is I read the bill, and maybe I think I saw Ann on the call. As I read the bill is incorrect, and it says there's 15 members. Then it goes on to add voting rights to 4 ex officio. So in fact, you have 19 members, and I don't think our 8 vote majority, even though it's currently codified in our bylaws, I don't think that would be legitimate anymore. And I'm not saying or arguing in the least that those members should not have voting rights. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is there should be some acknowledgement of the ability to achieve a quorum, given the fact that ex officio members don't have the same attendance ability as the rest of us.
Doug, I may be too anal on that, but that is dealing with a bylaw and comparing it to a potential statute. And the council has the ability to deal with that however the council feels, because it's a bylaw.
Can we do the same thing with what constitutes a quorum?
Yes, within the bylaws.
Is that fall within standard Robert's Rules of Order?
It did last time I checked, but I've not been doing very well with my memory.
Yeah, I don't mean to be a pill here. I just.
Oh, Krista just not on our chat, and I'm glad nobody's using the chat. Krista just texted that it actually is in statute, the 8. So Doug, once again, you're right. I'm wrong.
Well, Richard, I just don't want you to forget as you head up.
Yeah, going out in a flame of glory.
Yeah.
And this is Anne. If there are technical things that we need to address or amending language, I'm happy to provide that to the sponsor of the bill. So if there are any challenges, Richard and Stoyan can work with me, and I'm happy to help with that.
Do you understand the conundrum here, Anne?
I don't actually, but I'm sure you all will be able to help me get there.
Just in a nutshell, we currently have 15 members on the council and 4 ex officio members who currently have non-voting rights. They have the ability to comment and to make motions, but they don't have voting rights. So once we increase that number of council members to an effective number of 19 with that have ex officio members have full voting rights, now in theory we would need 10 people for a majority, and I don't recall what our quorum requirements are, but just say for an example, we have none of our 4 legislative members attend a meeting, we may have a much more difficult time achieving a quorum on daily business, and or a majority vote on those that require a specific majority vote number. So that's the point. Not whether or not those members should or shouldn't have voting rights. That's not my thing, but I want to be able to preserve. What's that?
No, that makes sense. I did had a lot of things going on, but I was listening to part of the hearing when this has come up, and I think that's been an issue that's been brought up before, but Richard or Stoyan may know.
Okay.
Their stakeholder brought that up. But Richard, would you happen to know if that's something that got brought up?
I keep muting myself. No, but I certainly will look into it after this meeting.
Thank you for that, Doug.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, this is Diane. Just to add to that, that is my concern as well. It's not whether they have the voting rights, and it would be 20 because we have 4 ex officio, or yeah, don't we have 5? Yeah, because we have L and I, isn't he?
Well, that's right.
Yeah, so we have 5. And he participates more probably than the legislators, but we usually just get 2. And so that would be my concern too, whether we have a quorum and then the voting majority.
I'll add to that just a little bit and say that, you know, this body is, my understanding is the Building Code Council is primarily a technical group that proposes the best codes based on the legislature's requirements. And then the code is supposed to sit through the legislature through at least one cycle. So the legislature has time to act on it. The more political voices we add and non-technical voices we add to the Building Code Council, that can water down the technical nature of what we consider. And I think that's another consideration.
And that concern has been brought up in testimony by other stakeholders.
Yeah, this is Todd. I agree that was well represented today in the testimony.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. Any other comments about that bill or others? Stoyan, Richard, do you have anything else to add?
I don't. Again, if you want me to change something and you know, how I present the bills and what kind of information you guys want to see, just let me know and I'll work with it.
Okay. Thank you. Is our work done?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Richard.
Please.
I thought you asked about comments on the bill. I didn't lie. I misspoke last week when I said I would attend the next 2 legislative meetings. I actually scheduled to get my COVID shot next Friday at this time. So I need this to sound sincere because it is, but I can't help but laugh. This has been an incredible group to work with, and I consider myself extremely blessed to have the opportunity.
Well, thank you for your service, Richard. You're going to be greatly missed. Stoyan's going to do a great job. And hopefully this isn't the last time we see you.
Like a bad penny.
And I think getting your shot's a good way to go out. So
that's right.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Richard, as well.
Okay. Just completing out the agenda then. Do we have any other business? Item number 5? Okay. Hearing none, then we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Happy trails, Richard.
Yes.
Yep. Thanks, Richard.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Good luck, Richard.